coming on as we get started. So I'm very excited to welcome Tom Baker, CEO and owner. And today we're going to cover his training on manage, process, lead people, compensating those who participate, share, and refine how your agency does business. And so just a little bit on Tom. And Tom, I'm blanking on your company name right now. I don't know why I'm having a
Catalyst.
Catalyst, his Catalyst system. Thank you. So I've had Tom on pretty much all of our insurance agent summits so far. Not only have I been impressed with his expertise on just, the psychology behind not only hiring, but also how do we motivate and train our employees. As I said in my email that I sent to you guys, we've done a lot of surveys at the summit on what are your frustrations? What are your challenges in growing your agency? And again, one of the biggest ones I get far and away is hiring quality people. And then even bigger than that is how do I manage and motivate them so we reach our goals and get things done that we need to every day in the agency. And so that's a challenge, not only in the insurance industry, but in all industries. And so Tom has, his team just has a wealth of knowledge in this area, really understands the struggles agencies go through, and then has built a software program, Catalyst, that really helps accomplish those things, helps you get buy-in from your team members, helps them understand where are we going and how are we going to get there to reach the goals within the agency. And so, the change that he's made in some of the agencies that he's worked with, some of the agencies that I've even referred to him from the Insurance Day Summit, I get emails that just say, wow, this has had a tremendous impact on my agency. I can't believe what it's done for us. And the growth and the trajectory that they're now on is incredible. And so we all want that. And Tom, I feel like, has kind of cracked the code. So with that, again, Tom's training today, manage, process, lead people, compensating those who participate, share, and refine in how your agency does business. Again, Tom Baker with Catalyst. Tom, thank you so much for doing this very valuable training for our members today and taking time to do so. So I appreciate you being here and doing this. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take over from here.
And thanks, Brian. I always love doing things with Brian because he gives such wonderful introductions. And I wanted to take just a moment with my webcam on, since I can't look all of you right in the face and say thank you for the opportunity of sharing time with you. I'll turn it off so we can get into the presentation, but I did want to take just a moment, let you see who I am, and hopefully see the passion that both Nina and I have for working with agency owners such as yourself, and the very, very important area of compensation and working with your staff. So I'm going to turn my webcam off and we're going to get started. You see on the slide in front of you, very important thought. Change is the bridge that takes us from where we are to where we've never been. The author of The Fifth Discipline, if you've read that book, it's an excellent book, says people do not resist change, they resist being changed. I think that's a really significant thought, that change is something we have to do in our industry. And of anything that over the last 30 years is important to change and yet has not, is compensation. If you think about, you probably no longer do yellow page advertising. You rely on digital marketing, not even just a simple website. We've gone paper to paperless. We've made all kinds of changes in technologies and strategies and workflow. The one thing that we still do the same way we did it 30 years ago is compensate our staff. And how we engage staff, attract and maintain and retain top talent is simply the single most important question that every agency owner faces, and I'm sure that you do as well. Back in 1998, a family friend, son of some friends of ours, wanted to come stay with my wife and I for part of his sophomore year in college. So as Joseph came in, good-looking kid, just a lot of potential, great personality, we explained to him when he came to live with us for the semester that we had raised two teenage daughters with zero house rules. I'm a believer that all rules do is make people want to break them, and rules tend to be high maintenance. So I told him, you're a young man, you know, you can come and go as you please. There are no curfews. We don't have any house rules. However, I do need to let you know a couple of things about how we live and do business as a family. The first thing, Joseph, I need to let you know is we only give keys to immediate family members, and that was my wife, myself, and our two daughters. It's nothing personal. It just, this is the way we choose to live our life. So we will not be giving you a key for that reason. And I need to let you know that I go to bed at about 11 o'clock at night. And once I go to bed, I don't get up. Other than that, you are free to come and go any way that you please. Well, it wasn't long before, maybe 2 weeks into Joseph living with us, heard a knock on the door, looked at my watch, it was about 12:15 in the morning, and I had a decision to make. Joseph had put his choice in conflict with how we operated as a family. And the conflict was, I told him, you don't have a key, and I told him I go to bed at 11 o'clock, which I did, and I told him I don't get out of bed. So we had a conflict between his choice and our choice. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to get up out of bed and make an exception and let Joseph in, or am I going to turn over and go back to sleep and have a nice night's sleep? Now, what makes the situation a little bit more interesting was it happened to be about 28 degrees outside. But I still had the choice of what to do with the conflict between Joseph's decision and our decision. And I made what I believe was the only choice, certainly the right choice. And I decided, Joseph, if the decision to sleep in the cold is good enough for you, then it's also good enough for me. So Joseph slept in the car that night, 28 degrees weather. I turned over and had a very nice warm night's sleep. And I have some people, as I share this story, they say, well, Tom, that was so cold and heartless. Well, if that's the decision Joseph made, who am I to say I know what's best for his life? And well, didn't you feel guilty about not getting out of bed and going and letting him in? And I said, no, actually I didn't, because if the decision to sleep in the cold is good enough for Joseph, if it's good enough for you, then it's also good enough for me. There's a principle there of how we resolve conflicts when other people's choices conflict in some way with our choice, and not just in personal, but this also comes into the business world as well. And that brings us to what I hope will be one of many wow moments for you, and that is manage processes, lead people. Manage processes and lead people, because managing people is simply too much work. If you have ever tried to manage your staff, which I know you have, you know what a pain that can be in trying to get staff to do what you want them to do. We're going to look at an alternative based on that example that happened about 20 years ago with our family friend, Joseph. Now, Brian has already introduced the title, which happens to be our wow moment, manage processes. Some of you are going to remember 10 years from now where you first heard this idea. You perhaps heard it someplace else. I think probably not, because I don't run into it often. But we're going to look at how to compensate those who participate, share, and redefine how your agency does business. I mentioned a moment ago, have you ever tried to get people to do their job? And the owners that I talk with, yeah, I hear them say, that feels like a boulder I'm trying to push up a hill, and God forbid I should slip and that boulder come right back on me, and you get flattened and you get tired and worn out because you are just simply trying to get staff to do their job. After all, that sounds very reasonable. Now, here's something I hope you'll remember. You will never, ever, ever get anyone to do anything. This is true with kids. This is true with staff. This is true with life. You cannot get people to do anything. People are going to make a choice, And your choice is then how to manage the conflict if their choices conflict with yours. But you'll never get staff to do anything throwing money at it. You've tried with bonuses and giving people raises and such, and money doesn't solve the problem. Money does not get staff to do their job because, again, you're never going to get people to do anything they do not proactively choose to do. Jim Collins, if you've not read Good to Great, I certainly recommend it. But he makes a very important statement in the book. The purpose of a compensation plan is not to get the wrong people doing the right things. The purpose of a compensation plan is to get the right people on the bus and keep them there. Jim Collins' perspective is you hire people who are already motivated. You don't have to motivate them. You don't have to get them to do anything. You hire people who are the right person for your bus, and then you simply engage them in ways that's going to benefit them emotionally, professionally, financially, and that motivation kicks in, and that's where you develop a great company. Now, here's another wow moment possibly for you because and I really wish I could see each one of you as I say what I'm about to say, but what if you shocked everyone? You went in tomorrow morning to your agency and you said, well, I came to this great webinar yesterday, and the guy says, I'm going to tell you from today forward, no one has to come to work on time. No one has to do their job. Matter of fact, no one has to do anything. You completely disengage from the idea that you are going to put rules in place, that you then have to manage those rules to get people in the boulder and all those things that we looked at. You're going to tell people, look, I don't care what you do in your job. You're going to make a choice in the job that you deliver. Now, what you're actually doing with making that statement, you are accepting people taking personal responsibility for the consequences of their actions. But you're going to respect their decision. We're going to empower people to make a choice of what door they want to go through. And here's what makes this work. Door number one, staff, you're going to make more money, have less stress, more control over your day, and you're going to feel more successful every day. Door number two, you're going to make less money, you're going to be more stressful, you're not going to know exactly what success looks like, and in all probability, you're not going to be working here, you're not going to have a job. But I'm going to respect your right to choose, and you know what? If that choice means you leave the agency because your choice is in conflict with how you run your agency, then if your decision to choose door number two is good enough for you, then it's good enough for me. You're not firing anyone. I don't believe in firing people. I do believe in giving people very clear choices in how they manage their life within the agency during the time that they're at work. And they're going to make a choice between door number one or door number two. There are no other options. What makes this successful is you clearly define door number one, you clearly define door number two, and then you respect the decision of each individual to choose the door that they're going to walk through. It's a very different way of engaging your staff. Again, it's based on manage processes, lead people. Inc. magazine, this article is about 2 years old, but it's talking about self-managed teams being the future of business. And the writer, Chuck Blakeman, said, ownership is the most powerful motivator in business. A business that motivates everyone to take ownership has found the holy grail, self-managed teams. In other words, you're going to have either job renters or job owners. Now, job renters kind of handle their job like many renters of a house does. You know, they're not going to put in the investment. Even if they take care of the house, there's a difference in the amount of investment they're going to make. If you own the house, you're going to put investment because you're looking to be there, you're looking maybe to resell, you're looking for the value in it. The attitude of a renter and an owner are very, very different paradigms. And when you make a focus of self-managed teams, empowering people, respecting their choices, then you're going to create an environment where you will have more job owners and less job renters. And that's exactly where we want to go in this workshop, to show you how to do that. Now, I want to very quickly look at some processes to manage in 4 key areas of your agency's life. One is business standards for your agency. The second is policies and procedures. The third is account development. And the fourth is personal accountability. These are 4 areas. You're going to put processes in place, and those processes are going to manage the actions of your people, and they will make a choice between door number 1 and door number 2. Agency standards. The key to consistent agency standards are KPIs, key performance indicators. It's a word we don't hear it often in our world, outside our world, in every other business. It tends to be a very common business term. A key performance indicator is an essential behavior that directs how your agency lives, grows, and does business. It's a driver. It's what sets the course and sets the path for how your agency is going to do business, and ultimately the direction that you're going to go. Key performance indicators can be created for every position: front office, back, sales, service, licensed, unlicensed, doesn't matter. Every position in your agency has behaviors that can be defined as key performance indicators. Now, the philosophy of key performance indicators is different from a lot of goal setting we're used to. It's not about setting a stretch goal and how high can you jump, and we're going to set goals that maybe you can achieve or maybe you can't. The idea in KPIs, key performance indicators, is just like if you're driving in your car, you look to the right, you look over at your cell phone. That's what makes texting so dangerous. If I look to the right when I'm driving, I'm going to steer my car to the right, because actions follow focus. Wherever you look is where you're going to go. If we can change what people look at on a daily basis, you will change their actions. And that's what the philosophy of key performance indicators is. It's about putting the behaviors in front of staff. If they will begin looking at these things on a daily basis, your agency is going to be steered in the direction that you want to go. Now, there's income, performance income, that we recommend associated with achieving key performance indicators, KPI goals, but it is not a bonus. You are not bribing people to do their job. If you offer someone a bonus, it means that you have empowered them to choose not to do whatever you want done. The idea of a key performance indicator is it's your job to do your job. I know that's not very American right now, to say, hey, you're responsible. It's your job to do your job, and you're going to have the consequences of your actions, and I'm going to respect those consequences. KPIs are extremely critical if you're going to have consistent agency standards. Here are some categories that we've defined. We have about 90 KPIs in our system. You'd have KPIs for accounting, account development. You can see all the different categories. New hire is very important because you can create a set of KPIs for a new hire in any position you've got, and that's going to help you determine, is this person the right fit for the agency and for the job? Sales process, social media, workspace management. KPIs can be created for each of those categories. And here's how KPIs work. On the left, let's say ask for customer testimonials. Let's say you've never done that before and you've never done a great job of getting customer testimonials, which I hear that a lot. So we're going to start out, staff, all you got to do is ask. You don't even have to get them. We're going to start out by asking. We had an agency a number of years ago that had never in 20 years done a great job of getting customer referrals. Their first year, the KPI was to ask customers for referrals, names of friends, family, neighbors, coworkers. The second year, the KPI was to get so many referrals, and the third year was to write so much premium based on those referrals. So in 3 years, they went from something they'd never done to a behavior that was consistent in the agency, all the way to monetizing that particular activity. And they did it on a path that took them 3 years to get there, but it was absolutely worth it. You see a goal, in this case, it'd be an annual goal. So you're asking someone twice a week to ask for a customer testimonial, and you see a score there of 10. So you're going to have a maximum score. Those numbers add up to 100. You have a goal for that particular KPI. It could be getting BORs, premium. Notice we've got personal growth and development, nothing to do with insurance, helping the person become a better them. I'll show you some other KPIs later. Premium or policies with a preferred carrier. I talked to one agency back about 5 years ago. They lost a $30,000 contingency check by one policy. And I have to tell you, he sat down and cried. KPI for writing with preferred carriers is your surest way to get the contingency dollars that you need and that you deserve. So here's how the scoring works. If you score 100% of your goal, you get 100% of your maximum score. Now, our system breaks, I recommend this be done quarterly. Our system breaks all this down to where there's no calculations. You can do it yourself. It's a lot more work. But 100% of the goal for the quarter, you get 100% of your maximum score. 90% of your goal, 90% of your maximum score. If you go over your goal, you get 110%. You're still getting 100% of the maximum score. In other words, each one of these things is the responsibility of the employee to do. They cannot slough one and make it up on another. Each one stands on its own. And then you actually base their performance income. Let's say that they have $1,250 for the year on the table for performance income. So in order to get 100% of your money, $1,250, you have to score 95 to 100. If you do not ask for testimonials enough, if you do not return phone calls in time, if you don't write with the preferred carriers, we even have a peer evaluation. If you don't play nice with your neighbor, you can set any other KPIs. If they do less than their job and they score 94, that has cost them 75 or 25%. They're only going to get 75% of their money. It's not a bonus. It's part of their compensation. If they own this, then people will do whatever they have to do not to lose what's theirs. If they believe that $1,250 is their money, they will do whatever they have to in order not to lose a dime of what their money is. This is how you achieve agency standards that are consistent, that you're directing and you're steering the agency in the way that you want it to go. KPIs are very dynamic and very, very powerful resources for your agency. Now, the second area that we're going to look at is policies and procedures. Part of this is using your agency management system. I hear all the time, most agency owners tell me they'll use maybe 50, 60% of their agency management system. They have policies and procedures that are more requests than requirements. So how do you line up actions and lead staff to follow the procedures and the policies that you have? And the answer is compliance audits. Now, I hear very often, and staff are well-meaning this, to say, I treat the customer the way I would want to be treated. Horrible, horrible, horrible idea. Because if you have 5 employees and each one is treating customers the way they want to be treated, you have 5 different types of policies and procedures and way that you run your agency. What you want is everyone following the same track so there's consistency, which ultimately leads to professionalism and retention. So rather than staff saying, hey, I'm going to do it the way I feel best, we're going to put an audit in place and we're going to audit processes, we're going to audit procedures, and we're going to audit ways of doing business for our agency. And we're going to do it in such a way with a compliance audit that that's a KPI and your responsibility is to score 100% on your compliance audit. Here are some categories that we created for compliance audit. How you use your agency management systems. Are you documenting correctly? Are you documenting the correct, whatever your policy is for communications with customers or prospects? Returning phone calls in time, account development, using checklists, writing with preferred carriers, cancellations. You can see the different categories, even workspace management. Maybe you want to make sure that their workspace conforms with how your agency does business. For example, not leaving their agency management system up with a client screen up when they walk away from their desk on break. I know it times out, but until then, potentially you could compromise customer data if you leave that screen up. Those are the categories. Here's what a compliance audit looks like. Let's say I print out, in my left hand, I have an activity report for the last 3 days, and my right hand, I have my audit. And I'm going to look for Jack Bauer. It's my customer. And I'm going to look, was a phone call returned within 1 business day? I look on the audit, on the activity report. It says, yes, documented call returned in 2 hours. So I can mark that yes. And you see the yes in the column over here on the right. Now, let's say that another item we're going to audit is grammatical errors. And I'm going to look at Jim Phelps, and I find an email that was sent out that 1,000 words in the email, but one of the words was spelled incorrectly. That's a no. It's measurable, it's objective, it's consistent. These are very easy audits to do because you are simply matching an audit item with an activity report for ever how many days you want to print out. And now the way it's scored, if you audit 10 items, 9 of them are yes, then that's an audit score of 90%. If you have a goal of 100% and you've got a weight of 10 on your audit, compliance audit, that means they're going to get 9 points instead of 10 for that KPI. Now, following your procedures is tied directly to how your agency does business. The third area that we want to look at, KPIs and compliance audits, absolutely fantastic ways to direct and steer your agency. But account development, we want go across lines. We want to round out accounts. We want to do the things that probably all of you have a challenge in getting staff to do. But you know that rounding accounts is the single most significant growth opportunity in the agency. You know that. You don't have personal lines for commercial. You don't have life for near as many people as you want. You have monoline that's out there. How do you get everybody working together as that self-managed team so that you do a great job of account development? And the answer is revenue sharing. Most compensation plans are set up so that you can have one person successful, but the entire agency is unsuccessful because they're the only one really pressing forward to grow the agency. The idea in revenue sharing is we want to create an environment so that everyone feels they're in this together. And there's a great quote by John F. Kennedy, rising tide lifts all boats. In other words, you're going to create a culture that says when the agency grows, everyone grows along with it. We're not wanting pockets of success. We're looking for an agency that's successful. Now, here's the way that revenue sharing, let's say that, and there's calculations I'll show you in our system, but let's say that Jack is going to be entitled to 0.355% of every dollar that comes into the agency. Doesn't matter if it's life, commercial, personal, if you want to toss fees in there, whatever you want to consider agency revenue. And there is a agency goal that's set every month. And when that goal is achieved, every employee is entitled to that revenue times their prime commission or prime revenue sharing rate. The nice thing about revenue sharing is this applies also to non-licensed staff. We have receptionists who are getting a piece of every dollar that comes into the agency. If the month don't achieve the goal, for example, in February, 39,000 is less than the adjusted goal, then there was no revenue sharing paid. Notice the planned goal, 40,000. They went over it by $1,000, 41,000. It reduced the goal for February. So you use a floating, like a level, and if you go over 1 month, it lowers the next. If you go over it or under, it raises it. That way you never have to do calculations And each person now, if they don't do their job, then they are not only cutting themselves out of income, but they're affecting their neighbor, which you end up with some positive peer pressure, which is exactly what we want in the process. Now, personal accountability. How in the world do you get staff to do their job? Well, we answer that early on. You don't. You accept their choices for personal accountability. Now, here's a new proverb. It's new because I wrote it. A falling hammer injures the foot it falls on every time. In other words, there's a consistency and a result and a consequence to actions. If you do not have clear, consistent, enforceable consequences, then you have requests, not requirements. What makes managed processes lead people work is there's door number one, there's door number two. When you do your job, here's what's going to happen. When you don't do your job, here's what's going to happen. But you respect the person to make a choice. And you have a set up time. I recommend 10 minutes. You get a timer, you set it 10 minutes every week with each staff. You're going to review their achievements. You're going to answer questions. You're going to provide resources that they're asking for. You're going to ask 5 questions in every session. First of all, what one question do you want an answer to today? Second, what did you achieve last week? Third, what challenges did you face last week? Number 4, what will you achieve this week? And number 5, what do you need from me in order to achieve your goals? Now, what you're doing with these 5 questions and asking the same questions every week, 10-minute meeting with each staff, is they know the answers to the test before they come. If they're not prepared to bring their report with them of their performance, if they're not prepared to answer these questions, to be quite honest with you, after a few weeks, if they know that they're going to be held to this standard of being able to talk about their job and they have no intentions, they just want to show up and suck air 8 hours a day and go home and get a paycheck, that person's going to choose door number 2. And it's very possible you're going to lose that person. Doesn't mean you have to, but there are definitely consequences for the actions. This is not a lengthy, how do I get you to do your job? We're not calling the person to the principal's office. We're laying out a very simple 5-question, 10-minute meeting that we're going to be a resource for people rather than being someone that has to get them to do their job. Now, the question always comes up, what about payroll? How do we actually make this thing work in real life? I'm going to close my PowerPoint and jump over here. This is an example of a compensation agreement that our system prints out. Jack Bauer, if you're a 24 fan, Jack died 3 times in 5 years doing his job. I tell people, I haven't found him, but I'd love to hire Jack. I was going to say, Jack, let's say he's making right now $30,000. And we're going to say, Jack, your compensation's going up to $33,000, 10% increase. Jack, that is your money. It's not a bonus. It's your job to earn $33,000. Now, we're going to keep Jack's hourly right where it is. We're not going to touch his ability to pay his bills. We're going to say, Jack, you got $1,650 in revenue sharing, and as long as the agency achieves its goal, you're going to get about $136 every week every month that comes from revenue sharing. Jack, you got $1,350 coming from your performance income. And and this lays out the 95 to 100, and it shows you, Jack, in order to get all your money, you got to score 95 to 100 on your KPIs. We're going to tell him exactly what his KPIs are, exactly how KPIs work. And this you're going to absolutely love. It's our responsibility statement. And you can read it, but basically what this says, I am taking personal responsibility for the consequences of my actions. I understand I have a job to do, and I understand that when I do my job, I've got door number 1. When I don't do my job, I've got door number 2. If I don't understand anything, it's up to me to go to agency management for clarification, training, or resources. In other words, Jack, don't come back in 90 days and say, oh, well, I didn't understand that's how it worked. Jack, this is your career. It's up to you. If you are not clear or you don't understand, it's up for you. It's up to you to come to me. This is a very, very different type of proposition. It works for service staff, for account managers, for producers, receptionists, office managers. We have set up a system that empowers you to put every position in the agency on a performance-based compensation plan. Now, I want to give you an idea of how we deliver this and what our idea of what this looks like in the real world. This Symphony is the first talent management system in our industry designed exclusively for our world, for insurance. I can look here and know exactly what each of my employees have. I know who's logged in. It's going to tell me if they've got certain things happening in their life, and if I want to, I can send them a message through the system and say, great job. I can look at where I stand in revenue, what my revenue goal is. I can look at all this information without running any reports, which is exactly the way that we designed this to do. Now, I told you KPIs. We have created about 90 KPIs. Let me give an example of a really creative one. We had one agency that hired a new producer and said, we want this person to deliver so many bags of chocolate chip cookies to our existing customers as a way of introduction. So a KPI for this new producer was to deliver so many bags of cookies. Develop and contact centers of influence. You can have generating new leads, getting a license, new auto policies, new accounts. We've actually had it broken down in social media, sales process, account development. We have KPIs for all of these things and with definitions for all of them that are fully customizable. So agency can create as many KPIs as they want. The important thing here is you have the actions that you want for staff to focus on, because you're going to steer them in these directions, and you can literally steer them in any direction that you want them to go. Now, someone is asking, does this interact and does it work with agency management systems? And yes, at this point, this is server-based. It's not cloud-based. We can deploy it in a cloud solution, but it is still a server-based application. If you can run an activity report with specific activity codes in your management system, we have a bridge that will come along and pull all that data in for you automatically. So imagine being able to sit down every day and say, I want to know how much premium has Jack written today. I want to know how many auto policies Dan's written today. And these are the top 7, because 7 is kind of a magic number of what people can keep in their head at one time. But you can actually track anything that you have an activity code for can be used to track in Symphony. And you can have it a part of their compensation plan, or you can just have it something you're tracking. Data and metrics is the single most important advance that every management system is going for. The challenge is you've got all these great metrics. How do you make money doing it? And that's what I don't hear a lot of answers back. I know how many policies, I know my average premium, I know I know all of this stuff. How do I use it to make money? Well, KPIs is a really, really good way to direct and steer your agency in that direction. We've actually added something that we call our organic growth wizard. Now, some of you, I'm hoping this is going to be really exciting for you. I'm going to go to personal lines, and you're going to plug in some behaviors. You want to send customers thank you cards. You want to update contact information. You can see some of the items here. You can name your own premiums and our line of business, put in your premium and your commissions, plug in your close rates, how many policies you have, and what your target is for each line of business. This report tells me right now 26% of my personal lines customers have an auto. Let's say I want to jump that to 35%. If I do that, I know exactly how much money. It's going to be $42,480 in the bank if I achieve that. And I can come down here and it will create KPIs that tells me how many times every month, week, or day staff need to ask for a quote, auto quote, how many quotes actually have to be delivered monthly, weekly, or daily, and how many new auto policies has to be written. Now, for the first time, you can go to your staff with hard numbers, and if they're going to question it, if you've got 2 personal line staff, and you're saying, okay, the goal is for each one of you to write 3 new autos a week. If that's a stretch, and you're going to have to defend that position to me, and if they've got a good point, great, adjust the goal. You may find out that we can do more than that. You can adjust the goal, see exactly what's at the end of the road, and create KPIs for every line of business, plus account reviews, updating contact information, referrals to small commercial, referrals to personal lines. This creates a track, a roadmap for you for personal lines, small commercial, which is typically non-producer driven, large commercial that would be producer driven, and you can track all of that here without running any reports and see exactly what's happening in the agency management system. Now, the staff have a dashboard. Data can get entered into Symphony via the staff dashboard. I'll show you that in just a moment. But the idea of KPIs with this kind of dynamic real-time data is phenomenal for helping you steer the agency in the way that you want it to go. Now, we also had job descriptions, but one of the things that I mentioned a moment ago in policies and procedures is our compliance audit. So I'm going to go to our compliance audit, and here are the categories that I mentioned that we have to work with. I've got management system documentation. We have a list. You can customize this list, and you can say these are the items that we are wanting to audit on a quarterly basis, which is what we recommend doing. You can create a customized compliance audit very, very simply by selecting, or again, this can be customized to look at whatever you want to look at. This can now be printed out and given to staff, or given to maybe an office manager, or receptionist, whoever's going to do the actual audit. And now you have a way to tie following policies and procedures directly to staff compensation. On our dashboard here, just a couple of other things. I can also look at performance by department, by individuals, or by job title. Or if I want to look at a particular person, I can filter down and pull up any staff and profile, and I can see exactly what's happening with that person for the year, for the period, and what their scores are. And again, this is without running any reports or doing anything complicated. We have a time clock if you want to use it. It will allow staff to clock in, clock out, and you can print timesheets from this. You also have an agency goal that this will be the running that level I mentioned for revenue sharing. It tells you exactly what the goal is for this week. And so you don't have to keep up with where you are in the year. It tells you immediately right here, as long as I do $42,050 this month, I am current for the year through May. So it makes goal setting much, much, much easier. Now, you've seen pretty much everything. We've got reports. We have some other resources behind the scenes. But this and everything we looked at in the PowerPoint, talking about KPIs, compliance audit, and revenue sharing, we actually have all of that built in to Symphony so that you don't have to start from scratch. And by the way, we also work with you, and we not only will create your initial plan, but anytime you hire someone, or through the year you want to look at your plans, we're going to be there for you and work with you and help in any way we can. Now, here is what I recommend that staff look at. Remember, we want job owners and not job renters, and we're going to be able to finish up here in just a moment. And so if you do have any questions that you would like answered in the last 10 minutes, let me know and just put them on the questions, and I'll do my best to get each of them. Someone has asked, am I available after the meeting? Absolutely. Be more than happy to talk with you. Nina and I are available. Anything we can do. I I had an agency recently that called me. They're not a customer. They said, we want to hire a producer. And by the way, producers are an entirely different world, but we want to hire a producer. And I created 3 different types of compensation plans for this individual. They're still not our customer, but boy, he probably is going to be, because we helped him with a very difficult hiring decision. We're here to help you. And if we can do that, that's what gets us up in the morning. Notice that Jack, as a job owner, he can not only see his information, he can look at what other departments are doing. He can see exactly what he has in performance income for this quarter on the table. He can see what he's got on the table for revenue sharing this month. He can see what the revenue goals are. This is the entire dashboard. If you want him to put data directly into Symphony, if you want to just do customer name and then reference it back to the activity in your management system, that's great. There's never more than 4 pieces of information that can be asked for, and we're not trying to repeat an activity. We just want enough information here to know that this action did take place. I'm always asked, well, how do you know staff are putting in accurate or valid information? And I always give the same answer. The personality, particularly of your CSRs and account managers, office staff, they're not risk takers. If you let folks know that if you falsify data in the system, that is theft, because everything is tied to revenue, income, and that's immediate grounds for termination. If they know that, so far in 8.5 years, the only time that I know of that false information has been put in the system that we know about has been an agency, and it was a producer who wasn't doing its job and was trying to make up for it. That's the only time I know of, and it did happen to be a producer that did that. So it is an honor system, but if they know it's going to be looked at and reviewed and talked about in your weekly coaching, and they understand the stakes, then we just have not had a problem that we know of in that. I did want to show you one other thing, and good question there. How much is it? Be glad to answer that. Wanted to show you one thing. Let's say you're hiring a new person, and you want to find out, is this person the one to do the job? So I'm going to hire Nina. I'm going to set up a probation period for her, and let's say that we're going to pay her $30,000 a year, and we can add performance and revenue share into that later. But for the probation, we're going to say, Nina, you got $7,500 for this quarter. There's $500 in performance income that's on the table. You have to score 95 below in order not only to get your $500, but in order for you to get a job offer. And you can see the responsibility statement's a little bit different in this one. But Nina, if you score 94 over this quarter, you will not be receiving a job offer. And notice, because every owner here I know can relate to this, you are not going to sit down with people and walk and hold their hand. It's just not going to happen. So learn a carrier product. Nina, it's your responsibility to learn Traveler's Homeowner that you've never worked with. We're going to ask you 10 questions or to demonstrate 10 actions at the end of this 90 days. And your score is going to be based on, if you get 9 of them right, that's 90%. Your goal is 100%. And Nina, here's the deal. You are asked to learn a carrier product, management system, insurance terms. You cannot ask me, or you can't ask anybody in the agency any questions. You have to learn it entirely on your own. In other words, you want to find, are you looking at someone who is proactive enough that they have the energy and desire to learn something on their own? Because if they're not, if they're going to be relying on somebody else, the average agency, that simply doesn't happen. So you can actually create KPIs that gives you demonstrated actions with a numerical value and let them know, hey, if you score 94, you won't be receiving an offer of employment at the end of the 90 days. We also have a system for taking producers, and you can take them from where you just bring them in on a probation period. And if you want to validate after 12 months or 18 months, you actually step down each quarter the amount of, if you want to put some kind of salary on the table, you step that down so much each quarter, such as 25%. You gradually roll that into commission so that at the end of the 12 months or whatever period, they're either at 100% commission or they're at the salary commission that you're wanting them to be at. But they're going to have to earn that money. It's not going to just be given to them. Question, do we connect to EasyLinks? Unfortunately, EasyLinks does not give you the ability, my understanding, because I talked with them recently, they do not give you the ability to create unique activity codes. And the only thing we need is something that's predictable to go look at. Now, if you use EasyLinks, by all means, confirm that on your own. But in my conversations with them, there's several management systems that do not give the ability to create activity codes. There are many that do. EasyLinks right now, my understanding is they do not give you that ability. I will be glad to, this is being recorded. I'll be glad to send a link to you, and you're more than welcome to review this presentation. And do we connect with EasyLinks? Will be available? Yes. Let me answer the question about cost. We really do try to keep things simple, and hopefully we do that. And by the way, we're going to have time for a couple of more questions. So if any part of the concept that we talked about, particularly the idea of going to your staff and saying, hey, I thought tomorrow nobody has to do their job. If that sounds interesting but kind of crazy, or you want to talk through it, let me know, and it'd be our pleasure to do so. If you go to our site, catalystinsurancessystems.com, and you click on what we do, and you click on Symphony and pricing, it's a real simple model. It's an initial setup of $2,200. That's one time, $150 a month for 5 users, an additional $20 a month for each additional user. Enterprise pricing, if you've got more than 15 employees, we'll work with you on that. Now, here's the good part about what we do. That's unlimited, not only tech support, unlimited upgrades. We rolled out the organic growth calculator, and our agencies did not pay anything for it. Now, the price went up afterwards because when we add things, the price, but our customers never ever are going to have to pay for that. We are just introducing what we call our ultimate hiring system. It's a 10-step, 3-part hiring system that gives you a numerical value whether or not to offer someone a job fully customizable to an agency. We're going to be including that in Symphony now. There will be a price increase later this year because it's what we believe is a very valuable tool. But for our customers, the ones that have been with us for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, they're paying exactly what they did then. We believe in loyalty and building relationships. We will get on the phone with you. Well, actually, I come to the agency. We will review your current compensation plan. We'll do a final review. We do that while I'm there. We have staff training and leadership training that is unlimited. We do soft skill training. Soft skill being for owners, we'll do how do you develop a self-managed team, change management, how do you resolve conflicts, team building 101, how to create scripts for your staff. I had to stop and think about some of the topics. We also do training for staff, stress management, time management, overcoming objections, phone and email etiquette, dealing with difficult customers. Those training sessions are all done live with your agency, either with an individual or you can group everyone together. There's no limit to the training that we will provide for you. We also personalize coaching for you to help you move and move forward and make sure your goals are being achieved. The in-agency visit, I come for 3 days, and that's for 5 employees. If you've got more than that, then we'll have to look, because 3 days is what it takes for 5 people. The first day is paid for in your setup and subscription. The daily rate's $850, so it's going to cost you $850 for 2 days plus my travel to come out. And once you do, then you're on board, and we're going to not only help you get that initial plan set up, but we are going to be with you and your staff. Nina does most of the support, and there's people that will call her, once a week, sometimes twice a week, particularly for the first several months. If your staff is having a problem with achieving their goals, please let us know. We'll be glad to work with them. We partner with you for the success of your agency. So I wanted to show you just a couple of other things. And again, if you do have a question, please let me know. But want to just take a look at on the master KPI list and the job descriptions. Job descriptions are really critical for your staff. And I want to end, and we do have, if you have another question, please let me know. But I want to give you an idea of the way that we position this in front of your staff. I'm going to go to personal line CSR. And notice the job description. The purpose for this position is to fulfill our customers' request to become their risk management team by writing and retaining business. In other words, the reason we're here is risk managers, and the way we do that is to write and retain business, as well as following established business standards and service and such. So you're putting a vision out there. You're putting a description for staff that says right up front, look, here's what this job is about. Here's why we have it. Here's how we're going to measure it. We also give a definition of customer service, talk about a value proposition here. These are fully customizable, of course, as everything else is. It's going to say how you get paid, and then you can say these are additional, in addition to your KPIs, these are requirements of your job. We can help you create job descriptions for every position in the agency, along with the KPIs, compliance audits, everything based on the compliance or the organic growth wizard. We've tried to put it together in a way that is very, very easy on you, easy on the eyes, easy on application. There's not a lot for management to do in the system. Management's main responsibility are those 10-minute meetings with staff. So I don't see any other questions. Brian, I wanted to, since we've got about 3 to 4 minutes, I wanted to turn it back over to you and let you make whatever closing remarks that you have. I will be getting the video and the PowerPoint. Be glad to get that out to you. If you would like for us to simply put a question on GoToWebinar, and we'll be glad to reach out to you. The person that wanted to stay on, absolutely. If you do want to call me after this session, 972-961-4798. 972-961-4798. And I'll leave this up, and it's got contact information. Brian, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Tom. I just come on briefly to say thank you. Appreciate you as well taking the time to do this for our members today. As always, very informative, great content that you can take it from this and apply to your business. But I really do hope, if you're serious about improving your team, improving that, it's probably, it's got to be up there for, successful companies for one of the most challenging things to figure out, but one of the most, important things to effectively growing and scaling a business and making it very profitable. It's the one we unfortunately usually avoid, but it's the one, that has the biggest impact on our business. So if you're interested and curious at all about what Tom does and how he can help your agency, again, he's got the number here. Please give him a call, set up a time to talk with him and work with him and his team, or just to learn more. Again, just had an email a couple weeks ago from one of the agents, somebody that attended the Insurance Agent Summit, had seen Tom's stuff, reached out to him, and has been working with Tom and has just been blown away by the results he's gotten in just the first, I think, 30 to 60 days, and just outpouring to me about saying, man, thank you. This is just really going to change my entire agency and business. So again, thank you, Tom, and thank you for all of you for taking the time to attend today. And if you're curious at all, please reach out to Tom and learn some more about him and Catalyst and what they can do for your agency. So, Tom, that's it for me. I just want to thank you again. Appreciate you taking the time.